Whether you started playing Palworld at release or you're just getting started, I want to provide you with some tips that I feel are going to make your life a little bit easier and maybe discover some stuff you probably didn't know that existed in the game. So with that being said, let's get started. Now, if any of these tips you didn't know, please let me know in the comment section down below which one helped you out the most. So let's get started with the first one. So this one's going to be one that's really good, and I'm pretty sure the majority of you guys haven't really thought of this one, but it does save your life. I'm going to give you guys a perfect example. Have you ever been in a situation where you weigh too much? Well, there is actually a couple little tricks that I can show you guys on how to get rid of this. Number one is activating 2 grapple hooks. So if you have 2 grapple hooks at a time, you can easily go from one grapple hook to another to avoid the cooldown reduction. As you see right here, if I want to get to this box, by the time my cooldown is done on my other grapple hook, I'm able to get here without a problem. This gives it a nice little way to kind of expedite the ability of being able to use a grapple hook more often. All right, so now on to tip number 2. So once you get here, guys, usually what I was doing when I was playing the game, I would actually hold down Y and then transfer my items this way. So like if I had items right here, I would easily just hold down Y and transfer them this way. And usually sometimes when you have multiple items of the same thing that fits into this category, you're just able to transfer one at a time. But there is actually a button called the quick stack button, which you see down here, that allows you to automatically transfer any item that you have multiple times. So if I split this and I show you guys, let's say I have multiple of these items, right? And usually the way I would be doing it is I would be transferring one by one. If I press this button, which is the RB button in my case, or if you're on keyboard, it's going to be R. If you press that, all of those items that are within that chest and the items that are within your inventory will automatically transfer to the location or to the box that you are sorting. So it's actually a really cool method and something you could probably overlook and miss. All right, so now on to tip number 3. Now, this one's actually pretty helpful because I didn't notice this until like 2 days into playing the game, and I feel like a lot of people might overlook it. So sometimes you guys are looking for pals and you can't find them. You're trying to find a specific one. There's this button up here, the sort button, that allows you to sort by different types. So you can sort by pal number. So based on the number that's for that individual pal, you could sort by it. You could also sort by the level. So you want to find out who has the highest level. You could sort that way as well. And you could also sort by elements, which is the one I've been using quite often, because when you go and fight higher tier bosses, you want to know which boss to use to be able to, have a better chance of defeating them. And knowing what element to bring there is actually very crucial. So you're able to see what pal you have for that specific option. All right, so now to tip number 4, guys. If you guys are having a hard time getting a bunch of pals and some rare pals, there's a way for you guys to get some rare pals by just capturing one pal. And that is by capturing, guys, if you see my video, by capturing the Black Marketeer. If you capture the Black Marketeer, he will spawn in your base and you will be able to buy rare pals for him. One great thing about it is that you're actually even able to buy some really kind of exclusive pals that you might not have access to, and this all costs coins. Now, what makes this even better is that you're able to actually recycle that real quick and get another option. So I could easily go here, transfer him out, and then once I transfer him out, I can bring him back in, and when I bring him back in, he will have another set of pals for me to buy contraband to be able to enhance my playstyle even better. This is a very good way not only to get random and different pals that you don't have, but also get some really good pals that might have 4 passive skills or better skills for your breathing. So make sure you guys put into practice to constantly check what pals are available to get some really good stats and some really good skills. All right, so now on to tip number 5. Did you guys know that you could get pals that actually could increase the damage of the attack for each individual pal? Let me show you guys exactly what I mean. So there's this Sweetbook character, and this is not the only pal that's able to do this. This is just an example that has the ability called of the partner skill that will allow you to increase the damage he outputs. As you guys notice right here, his attack is 193, but if I go ahead and do this, it's going to increase his attack because I stacked pals. Now, he's not the only character that's able to do that. And now that I go and take a look at him, you're going to notice that my attack went from 193 to 287. That is by being able to stack these pals, because once I remove him, his attack will go back to 193. There's a very good effective way, not only in early game, but in late game, to be able to maximize the most damage you're able to output from your characters. So make sure you guys check your pal packs to see what pal is able to allow you to output just a little bit more damage, because the more damage always helps. All right, so now on to tip number 6. Now for tip number 6, I do want to let you guys know that items tend to stack up. Now what that means is, if you guys notice, my attack right here is currently right now 118. But if I apply a pendant, you're going to notice that my attack goes to 135. What people don't really know, because I've gotten this question asked, is that you're able to stack multiple attack pendants. So it doesn't have to be a different pendant. It could just be another attack pendant to increase that damage output. And you're able to do this not only with attack pendants, but you're also able to do this with defensive pendants as well. As you guys notice, the defense goes up every time I stack these items. And you're also, which is pretty much common, intertwined. So, this people already know, but I did want to mention that any item is stackable upon each other. So if you have multiple items of the same one, to remember, you could stack them up to get just a little bit more damage, or a little bit more health, or just a little bit more survivability. All right, so now on to tip number 7. So a lot of people have been asking, what do I do when my food gets rotten? Because as you guys notice right here, if I go to my inventory right here, you're going to notice that when you're looking at your inventory, there's a timer, and that timer lets you know when that food is about to spoil. Now, how do you avoid that? You have to build a fridge to be able to avoid that, but sometimes you might not have enough space in your fridge to be able to stack food. Now, the great tip I want to give you is, if you guys cook food, for example, this lettuce that I have right here, these berries that I'm cooking right here, if you cook them and you leave them inside the pot, for example here, or you leave them in there, they will not rotten as long as you don't use them. The same thing applies if you want to go ahead and cook some cake, which a lot of you should be trying to cook. If you leave them within the kitchen, they will not rotten. It works the same way and applies to the same mechanic as if you leave them in here. So you will be able to keep them without having to put them in the freezer. They will be able to stay in here without rotting. So it's actually a really good trick to be able to stack up the majority of this the more frequently, the most possibly you can. All right, so now on to tip number 8. For tip number 8, guys, not every food is made equal. Now, what does this exactly mean? If we go over the food here, you're going to notice that there is a very important item that a lot of people go ahead and miss. And this particular item is the ability of knowing that each different food provides different sets of elements. Now, your characters, whenever they're farming or whenever they're doing their activities, will have a sanity meter. Sometimes you'll notice that when your pals are right here on the right hand side where it says base info, they'll either be injured, they'll have stress. And some of you guys might be going through this, and that's because they need to go into these little pools in order to cool down or get their sanity back. But there is a way to actually reduce the amount of time they spend in here, and also a way to avoid them staying here too long, and that is by feeding him the right food. And the way you do that is you're going to want to make sure you filter your food from the left to the right. And the reason why this is important is because each food has different sanity meters. For example, this tomato has no sanity, so when the pal eats it, it's not going to restore their sanity. But if I check out the honey has a sanity of 3. So every time they consume this, it's going to increase their sanity. It's going to reduce their sanity, I should say, because they're eating it, avoiding them from going into the spa more often. So you want to look for fruit and food that gives you more sanity and place it in the first slot to avoid them from having to go into the hot tub very often. For example, if you notice, the pancakes give 5 sanity, the breads give 4 sanity. So you want to make sure you put these in these locations to avoid them going crazy and just, spending too much time in there, less time in here and more working as we want. All right, so now on to tip number 9. If you guys create this particular item, which is called the motivation stand, which is going to be found within your technology tab. I believe it's like once you get like to 19 plus, actually 15, it's called not a motivation, the monitoring stand. This is going to allow you to increase the workflow of your character. So if you, for example, your pals are working too slow, you're not getting enough rocks, you're not getting enough materials, you could actually make them go ahead and work a little bit harder, and it's just going to increase their hunger and their sanity to deplete a lot faster. And that's why knowing what food to put into the baskets is extremely important, because this is going to go ahead and increase their speed, but it's going to kind of make them go a little bit more hungry. So you want to make sure that your base is constantly being checked and look that you have enough food, you have enough hot tubs to maintain that sanity. But it's a really good way, in case your workflow is going really slow, to make sure you guys are getting the most optimal when it comes to them. What I would suggest is kind of go in here, check how hard work does. If you see that they're having a lot of hard time working, or they're getting hungry quite a lot, like for example that guy's getting hungry, then just reduce the amount of workflow, but be able to keep that manageable, because sometimes working normal will kind of not yield you the best effect based on the build on the base that you currently have. All right, so now on to tip number 10, and this is just to enhance and better your capturing stats when it comes to capturing pals. So there are two things I want to give you that are going to make your life just a little bit easier when it comes to capturing pals. Number one is make sure that when you guys are in your inventory, you craft yourself one of these, which is a stun platoon. If you melee a pal with the stun platoon and they get stunned, it's going to increase the capture rate for that pal. But one of the most important things I want to recommend is definitely capturing one of these pals, a pinglet or a ping king, because these guys come with a really cool ability that allows you to freeze the character when you're fighting against them. Now, the great thing about this ability, which is the ice missile, is that when it gets shot to the pal, it will freeze the pal. And then if you use your sphere to capture him, it's going to increase the capture rate for you guys. So this is a very effective weapon, not only early, but in late game, to be able to, if you don't have a stun platoon, you could have either a pinglet or a ping king to be able to freeze the enemy and allow you to do and have a better capture. Now on to tip number 11. If you're playing with a teammate or you have a friend and for some reason your pal deck is almost completed, but your friend is missing a pal, there's actually a way for you guys to share that pal with them. So if you guys go ahead and put a pal here, like for example the Sripa, and then if I go to my pal deck right here and someone joins my my party, I can go to the party tab and press R2, and that will automatically drop the pal. The pal will drop in the floor, look like an egg, and my teammate can either pick him up or I could pick them up. So it's a very good, effective way to actually share each other pal to be able to, have a better, just help a teammate out, right? Help a brother out. All right, so now on to the next tip. So one of the most important things that's going to happen as soon as you get into later game, you're going to want to make sure you guys start cooking eggs. And, you want to make sure you're getting some really good eggs, right? So for example, let's go ahead and put this one in here. And if I put this in here, you're going to notice that when I put it in here, it's going to give me a timer of how long it's going to take for this leg to cook. Now, if you want that to be sped up and you don't want to wait for the incubation to take long, you could actually go into your world settings and change the settings via there to reduce the amount of time it takes to incubate your egg. For some of you guys, you might not like that, but I feel like this is a lifesaver and saves so much time, especially once you get into the whole breathing aspect of the game. All right, so for the next tip, guys, there's actually 3 tips in one. Number one, I'm pretty sure the majority of you guys know that you could slide and you could go ahead and glide down a hill to be able to make sure you traverse a lot quicker, as you guys notice right there. Number two is going to be that you're going to be able to move around the world with different grapple hooks. So you could theoretically use one grapple hook to go here and then switch over to another grapple hook and go over there, kind of making that Spider-Man effect, which is really good. But you want to have some grapple hooks that have really low cooldown. I don't have my extra purple ones for video purposes, but that's the way you're able to do it, using multiple grapple hooks to move across the world. In addition to that, another really cool trick is the ability of being able to hit a corner within the stone here, and then canceling that grapple so you could glide across. So let me show you guys exactly what I mean. So you're going to want to make sure, let me see, can I even grapple on that one? So I'm going to grapple to the edge over here. Let's see if this actually lets me do it. And as you guys notice right there, I instant canceled my grapple, and now it lets me glide even further. This actually works really well in mountaintops. And the next tip, which is against the transversal, is that if you guys have this character with your inventory, the Gallic, and you unlock his ability that he has, which is the Gallic Rider, it's going to give you a faster increment on speed. As you guys see that little burst of speed that I get, as opposed to you using a glider. So you notice every time you go ahead and grab them and you pull them out, you get that little burst of speed. You don't get that burst of speed if you use a normal glider, which I'll show you guys right now, as opposed to when you use him. Okay, so it's a really good, effective way to move around the map, as opposed to using it regularly. So you get that little initial burst. So I really recommend you guys definitely do upgrade that. And as you guys are seeing there, it's going to increase the amount of time it takes you to get to certain places. Now, I hope some of these tips make your game a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more easier, and a little bit more fun. If they did, a subscription would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to check out this video that's popping up right now on the screen that goes over the best pals to use for what type of element you're using. That's going to make your life easy as well, so you guys know exactly which pal to use when you're fighting certain bosses or certain dungeons. I hope you guys enjoy our content. Do me the huge favor, guys. Drop a comment, drop a like. But most importantly, subscribe to the channel, turn those notifications so you guys won't miss when our videos go live. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.